Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Tracy Hamlin to sing America the Beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating life, who thought themselves in broad denied, had mercy more than life. America, America, may God thy gold refine, till all success be nobleness, and every gain divine. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Librarian of Congress, Dr. Carla Hayden.
Wow. What an incredible performance, Ms. Hamlin. Thank you so much. And good evening, and welcome to the 4th Annual Library of Congress Lavine Ken Burns Prize for Film. You may clap right now, because we're here in person. And thank you for being here, especially Ken Burns, for whom this prize is named, and for Jeannie and Jonathan Lavine, who made it possible. Now, many of you know that each year, millions and millions and thousands of people from all over the world walk through this very room, the Great Hall, and experience its awe. And without words and without explanation, they know, just by looking up, like you can now, that they are in a place of wonder, built by leaders who were committed to making sure that the idea of democracy would be supported because it demands wisdom. And all of this gilding and this grandeur was commissioned to inspire, in 1897, a still young nation to remember the past and to learn from it. And that's exactly what we're all doing here tonight. Now, during my tenure as the 14th Librarian of Congress, we have deepened our commitment. And it's a commitment that we feel strongly about, to preserve and to collect the treasures of American history. Sometimes, at first glance, these treasures don't look like treasures at all. Some are on scraps of paper, dusty boxes, old reels of film, and no one has looked at some of these things for decades, and especially some of the things that haven't been listened to. Sometimes they come in the form of spoken words, and from famous people, but also for people who did not lead glamorous lives, and from people who were at the end of their lives, who sometimes show us the dark side of human nature, and sometimes their words are captured and they show us heroism. But wherever they come from and wherever they are, we know that they are all treasures, and they deserve to be at the Library of Congress. And we hope that they will help shape the future and that more people will come and use them, just like Ken Burns and the people that we celebrate tonight. So with Congress's stalwart support, and we are pleased to have members with us tonight, and the valuable help of philanthropists like those in the Better Angels Society, we are continuing to build, and we are continuing to preserve. And so tonight, we hope that you join us in this celebration of the best in telling America's stories. And Ken Burns, who you'll hear from soon, has for over 40 years mining the treasure trove that is at the Library of Congress to use it to create his beautiful, beautiful films, which have been shared with his fellow citizens through PBS and are treasures in themselves. So now, to tell you a little bit more about why we're here honoring Ken Burns and why we are honoring excellence in American documentary film, it's my pleasure to introduce two great friends of the Library of Congress, Congressman Jamie Raskin and Senator Roy Blunt.
Well, good evening. Thank you so much, Dr. Hayden, who came to the Library of Congress from Maryland. I wanted to mention that. Thank you for leading this great institution, which stands for the principle that the progress of democracy corresponds to and is parallel to the progress of knowledge in the world. So thank you for having the vision and the initiative to establish a national prize for American history documentary filmmaking in the name of Ken Burns. How extraordinary is that? That's pretty cool, right? You had faith in the idea when the Better Angels Society approached you about it in 2019, and both the profile and the competition for this honor, the magnitude of the honor, the intensity of the competition around it have risen dramatically in just these last 3 short years. So I'm very proud to be here tonight on behalf of the great state of Maryland. And I know I've got some constituents out there, so hello to everybody. And it's not too late to move into Maryland's beautiful 8th District if you're still thinking about where to live. And I should say Maryland has featured prominently in several of Ken's iconic documentaries, probably most of all in the Civil War. But I'm also proud to stand here tonight with my colleague, Senator Blunt, who claims to be the longest-serving fan and friend of Ken Burns on Capitol Hill, at least on the Senate side, I should say. So, Senator.
Well, that's right, Jamie. History, especially the way Ken Burns presents it and has presented it, really creates a common ground. It creates a sense of how we move forward together. I think one of the challenges in our society right now is everybody comes to every discussion with their own facts. But Ken Burns has a great way of presenting those facts. And the unique art form using archives, using film when film's available, documents, photographs, letters, and really weaving them together with interviews that give different points of view of why those things are so important and bringing that part of life to life for us.
Indeed, when Ken's brilliant documentary on the Vietnam War, directed with his longtime colleague Lynn Novick, who's here tonight, was released in 2017. It had a dramatic and powerful impact on American culture. I want to say I grew up with the idea that when everything seems fallen and ruined, it's the historians that will step forward to redeem our society and our culture. And I think nobody embodies that ethic better than Ken Burns and his associates. So I'm sure, Senator Blunt, in Missouri, you saw, as we did in Maryland, the way that that Vietnam documentary changed the ability of people in our culture to deal with the agonies and the crisis of the Vietnam War. It brought the voices, the geography, the images, the music, and memories of that watershed episode in our history to a whole new generation of Americans, and teachers still use it every single day in American classrooms across the country. And coming as it did with the buffer of 50 years after the end of the war, it gave those who protested the war, those who served in the war, those who executed the war, a way to come together and to try to reconcile over the wounds of our history. In auditorium after auditorium, Americans who had once been diametrically opposed and inflamed towards one another stood up and applauded each other and came to understand each other's perspectives. So that's the power of Ken and Lynn's extraordinary film, and of history generally, and of living in this golden age of documentaries about history, which bring history to life for people in our society. Their most recent film, The U.S. and the Holocaust, was an equally badly needed exploration of how our country responded to the calamity of fascism and genocide in Europe, and a reminder that we must examine not just the shining hours of our history, of which there are many, but also the darkest hours and sometimes the shameful ones.
Well, that's right. And of course, I'd encourage everyone to watch The U.S. and the Holocaust if you haven't seen it already. As Ken and I were talking about earlier, these things are now available in almost a perpetual way through streaming and free through PBS. Next year, we're going to be looking forward to a documentary on the American Buffalo, followed by one on Leonardo da Vinci, and then the American Revolution. If you're a big fan, as I was, of the Civil War documentary, I can't wait to see what you do with the Revolution as the beginning of who we all are. So we don't want to get ahead of ourselves into next year. We ought to be right here this year and in the present. Tonight we're going to find out who has the distinction of being recognized with the 2022 Library of Congress Lavine Ken Burns Prize for Film Award. And to tell you more about this award and announce the winner, ladies and gentlemen, I have the great honor of being able to introduce someone that I recognize and I refer to as a national treasure, Ken Burns.
Good evening. Thank you, Senator Blunt, who's been a friend for many years, and Congressman Raskin, who I just met tonight, but whose work preceded him, and we're grateful for your service as well to the Republic. We so appreciate you joining us, and thank you for the kind words. Our goal was always to have this prize acknowledged at the highest levels, and thanks to your presence, that is happening here tonight. As you put it so well, and as I've seen play out over many decades and in many films, history is indeed a place around which we can all gather. Thank you for gathering with us tonight in person. To my dear friends, Jeannie and Jonathan Lavine, thank you for making tonight a reality for all of us. We have learned a lot over the last few years, the power of friendships and family, the value of our healthcare professionals, the importance of government, and the joy that comes from joining others together, finally, in person. History is a place where we can gather because it is a place filled with stories. The great novelist Richard Powers wrote in The Overstory that no argument, the best arguments in the world, will not change a single person's point of view. The only thing that can do that is a good story. We're here tonight to celebrate storytelling, stories steeped in history and, like all good stories, filled with colorful personalities, lessons, hardship, and hope. History is often contentious. Our country provides us with much to celebrate, and we should not shy away from sharing the good, as Congressman Raskin said. But it provides us as well with difficult stories, as he also said, ones we should not bury or forget, but speak about, share, and try to understand again together. We are stronger as individuals and a country when we explore the good and the bad. I know I speak for Dr. Hayden and the members of the national jury when I say being part of this award is a great, great privilege. Many, many top-notch, carefully researched, amazing history narratives are submitted each year, and the number is just increasing. Susan Koch, who works closely with Courtney Chapin, the Better Angels executive director, leads the efforts of reviewing each and every submission. And my colleague Lynn Novick oversees the internal review committee, along with my dear friends, the writer Jeff Ward and Salima El Amin, a Florentine Films producer and archival expert, and Greg Lukow, Alan Gevinson, and Adrian Cannon from the Library of Congress. This group combs through a short list of semifinalists and recommends 6 finalists to our exemplary jury, which includes 3 amazing documentary filmmakers, Sam Pollard, Don Porter, and Sally Rosenthal, and 2 of the country's leading historians, Dr. Annette Gordon-Reed of Harvard and Claudio Sant of the University of Georgia. We are so, so grateful to these professionals, some of whom are here tonight, for being part of this and for all the time they devote to viewing each and every submission. In late summer, Dr. Hayden convenes the jury members and they discuss each of those 6 films at length and recommends the top 2, from which Dr. Hayden selects the winner in consultation with me. The promotion and advancement of this prize is run by the Better Angels staff in conjunction with the Library of Congress. They have enormous support from the Better Angel Society's Board of Directors, led by Bobby Stein, and the prize's honorary committee, which is an amazing group of influential people, including the great public media triumvirate of Paula Kerger of PBS, Sharon Rockefeller of WETA, and Pat Harrison of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, as well as the poet Richard Blanco, the filmmaker and anthropologist Patricia Cardozo, the Pulitzer Prize-winning historian Ron Chernow, the historian and filmmaker Claudrena Harold, the Pulitzer Prize-winning literary critic Michiko Kakutani, and the novelist C.J. Farley, just to name a few. Let's pause for a moment. And recognize the people who established this prize and who run it throughout the years. All of this is done in the name of great history storytelling. All of you, all of these illustrious partners and friends, and the filmmakers themselves all work so hard to get us here. We don't take history for granted, not tonight, not ever, but many, many people in America do, which makes this work more urgent than ever. This prize is about incentivizing and motivating the creation of quality American history documentaries, full stop. And this prize is about the idea that these history stories start to get the recognition and the respect they deserve. Finally, it bears repeating, I think, that history makes for great entertainment, and demand for history documentaries is stronger than it's ever been. History is where the best stories come from because they are true tales, not made up, and getting to the truth in them is where the magic actually happens. And what could be a better truth teller than what we find in an archive? The Library of Congress's rich archival collections are where I first found my inspiration so many years ago when I first set out to tell America's story, and I am deeply indebted to Congress and Dr. Hayden for investing in these archives year after year so that they are not only saved for posterity, but continue to grow and inspire the historians and filmmakers and citizens of the future. Let us take a moment now to look at our finalists.
Ella had pieces of an illegal bomb of some sort that we were not supposed to be using in Vietnam, but we were, and so she was holding them up. I was afraid of her, too. I had never, ever, ever in my life seen someone who did not come to the public as a lady.
Also, for a lot of us women, most of our lives we were told to shut up and sit down. And it was very encouraging for us to be with a woman who was saying to us, speak up.
What makes American music sound American?
Virgil Thompson was searching for an American sound. Copeland was searching for an American sound to free themselves from the European model.
The police at our door, they're saying, get out, you have to evacuate. We're going to have a police action here on your block. Just take a change of clothes, you'll be back in 24 hours.
Lisa, there has just been a huge explosion here. We don't know what it means, but it just shook the whole...
This is important for me. If anything, is let them neighbors know. Really sorry.
These mascots are coming down one at a time.
Because there's not two sides to this question.
We are people first, not Redskins. We are not scalps. We are not chiefs. We're not squaws.
It's up to Native peoples to own their own images, to own their own words, and to be able to own their own feelings.
We have a voice now.
We're done having people not hear us. And I think we're done playing nice.
Day this year set a CIF record for one game with 134 points.
The action was fast and furious, Ross. Both teams are trading baskets.
Jumper good to the outside by Lewis.
I had one rule. If you steal that ball, you can shoot it. I didn't care if you turned the flip. I didn't care what you did. You can shoot it. You understand? They ain't miss no layups. Once they steal that ball, they're going to go. That's the prettiest thing you want to see.
There isn't a day goes by that I don't have a cancer patient or an AIDS patient call my house and state that they cannot find marijuana.
Dr. Conant even tells his patients where to get it.
And that's the Buyers Club.
Welcome to the Cannabis Buyers Club in San Francisco.
Well, this is the McDonald's of marijuana, is it?
Yeah, you could say that. Now the club is taking its message statewide.
The club is now a campaign office for the effort to legalize marijuana for medicinal purposes.
Will we be remembered as people that denied sick and dying people in medicine for purely political reasons?
Our goal with this award, which has been realized through the generosity of the Lavines, is to lift these films up and recognize their excellence, and to provide late-stage production and finishing support, as well as much-needed marketing and distribution support, with the hope that they will, in fact, be finished at the highest standard, and so that more people will see them. I can tell you, as a filmmaker, the first money is tough, the last money is even tougher. Tonight, the winning film receives $200,000, and the Better Angels Society provides $25,000 to each of the 4 finalists. So with that, allow me to invite my dear friend and definitely co-conspirator in all of this, the Librarian of Congress herself, Dr. Carla Hayden, to come back on stage to announce the winners of this year's Lavine Ken Burns Library of Congress Prize for Film. Dr. Hayden, will you please join me? That's what it said.
It's a good thing that there are 2 of us up here to do the honors, because I'm proud to announce that we have not 1, but 2 winners of the library. Oh, I heard, ooh. 2 winners of the 2022 Library of Congress Lavine Ken Burns Prize for Film this year. The first winner, in no particular order, is Philly on Fire. Directed by Ross Hockrow and Tommy Walker. Would you please come forward to accept your award? And there's a proud mother in the audience, Mrs. Walker is here. Now, Ken, it's the excitement. I did it too. But Ken, now you can announce.
I get to do the
Yes.
second one? Okay, great, great, great. I'd be honored. It's Jeff Lieberman for his film, Bella. Jeff, can you please come up? That was also Jamela Fairley, who is involved in this production at the highest level. So we're happy that Jamela could join us on top. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Amy Berg and Jeannie Lavine.
Well, congratulations to Philly on Fire and to Bella and to all the finalists. The films are just spectacular. So I'm Amy Berg, the president of the Better Angels Society. And on behalf of the Better Angels Society and all history filmmakers, history lovers, and those who use these archival collections, we are very grateful for Boeing for its commitment to supporting the arts and humanities in America and for supporting us for this important event tonight. Without Boeing, we wouldn't be here tonight. So would our Boeing sponsors please stand so we can thank you? Thank you so much. We're going to hear from the two winning filmmakers in a few moments, but before that, Jeannie and I are going to tell you just a little bit about the Better Angels Society work, which is inspired by the lifelong accomplishment of Ken Burns and his team, and is dedicated to celebrating and supporting history documentary filmmaker. If you are a filmmaker here who has received any of our support, please stand up and let us recognize you, because we've been doing this for 4 years, and I know there's a lot of you here tonight. So. Thank you so much. Since we created this award in 2019, we provided more than $1.5 million in support to these documentary filmmakers through the Lavine Prize working in American history. In the last 6 years, we've established a number of other important and impactful programs which are made possible by the philanthropists who are truly a part of a society of better angels, helping to give our citizens and our students more quality American history stories through film. The Better Angels Stories Initiative, established less than 2 years ago, has already raised over $2 million to support American history films in production for PBS. This is in addition to the Lavine Prize. Our donors have seen their names on some great archive-rich recent PBS documentaries, including Plague at the Golden Gate, Marian Anderson, Joe Papp in 5 Acts, Flood in the Desert. And with an eye to the future, we've already garnered support for upcoming documentaries on William F. Buckley, the Boston School Battle, W.E.B. Du Bois, and others. And we're just getting started. So we're committed to making sure that public television has the resources it needs to continue to broadcast and stream great American history content. And as Ken said, we remain devoted to the filmmakers working to create these films who need more resources and more recognition. So now I'd like to turn it over to Jeannie to tell you a little bit more about our Better Angels Lavine Fellowship Program.
Thank you, Amy. And once again, Jonathan and I are so grateful to work with you, Courtney Chapin, and Meredith DeWitt to support this evening's celebration. Jonathan and I are honored to support this wonderful prize for documentary film. We are longtime admirers of Ken's films, and I don't think it's an understatement to say that we've been awestruck by the impact that his work has had on millions of people around the world. His masterful approach to documenting our history makes the events of our shared past come alive. We believe Ken's films bring us closer as a nation, and his willingness to address the most difficult subjects and the most challenging chapters of our history demonstrates not just a great talent, but also integrity and bravery. The world needs more filmmakers like Ken Burns, and we are honored to do our part to help foster a wider community of documentarians. Partnering with the Better Angel Society, we have expanded our support for Ken's work to attract and provide resources to other filmmakers telling stories that also have the power to enlighten and advance our understanding around our history as a nation. In 2019, this prize was established through a partnership with the Better Angel Society and the Library of Congress. The impact of the prize was evident even in its first year, so we were happy and encouraged to establish a related program called the Better Angels Lavine Fellowship. Our primary goal was to encourage more beautifully written, carefully researched historical documentaries. As Ken has demonstrated, this work, when done well, sparks a national conversation in a way that is healthy and enriching for everyone. We know that many Americans, young and old, are fascinated by these documentaries, and that an increasing percentage of students and young people get some or even all of their history through the film medium. Each year, the Better Angels Lavine Fellowship Program selects between 5 and 6 promising filmmakers who present exceptionally strong projects through their submission to the prize. Working with our staff, fellows themselves select this type of mentorship, guidance, and advice they feel they need from a group of expert filmmakers, media executives, legal advisors, sound and script experts, and others. Some of the experts advising the fellows are winners and finalists of the prize themselves, so we are continuing to knit this community together and leverage it as it grows. From January to June, they meet one-on-one and as a group to participate in workshops with PBS and other media platforms. In 2021, one of our fellowship films, Fannie Lou Hamer, made it from a work in progress to a polished film, airing on PBS in less than 1 year. And I'm happy to say they credit our fellowship for their rapid advancement. Under the direction of the Better Angels Society, Susan Koch oversees this program with Helen Huang. So Susan and Helen, if you are here, can you please stand up so we can recognize you?
Thank you so much, Jeannie. Before we go to our panel, we have one other very important program we want to share with you. It's called our Next Generation Angels Award, made possible through the generous support of John and Jessica Fullerton, who are with us here tonight. In partnership with National History Day, each year we honor 6 student filmmakers and their award-winning films, 3 in middle school and 3 in high school. When I was in middle school, I was looking for, where to buy my next pair of go-go boots. And these kids are doing the most amazing documentaries. It's just amazing. But we feature them in the Next Generation Angels Student History Film Festival, and they participate in an intimate mentorship session with Ken Burns and also with the professional filmmakers that are being honored here tonight. And this fall, at the Philadelphia Film Society, 600 local middle and high school students will attend our film festival in person to watch the winners' 10-minute-long history documentaries and hear them interviewed like professionals around their creative process. So this is the 4th year of the program, and we're thrilled to have the stories these young students bring to life, as well as their research methods and filmmaking journeys, be part of online resources used by thousands of teachers and students all over the country. If you want to be inspired about the future, we invite you to view these amazing short student docs on our website. But here's a quick glimpse of our 2022 winners tonight.
Premier Khrushchev had accepted an invitation from Iowa farmer Roswell Garst to visit his family farm and to see firsthand America's successful farming methods and agricultural practices. In an act of citizen diplomacy, Roswell Garst welcomed Nikita Khrushchev to his farm and home in 1959, which sparked much debate among Americans. However, the visit between Garst and Khrushchev helped to form a mutual understanding between the Soviet Union and the United States that ultimately led to the first thaw in the Cold War. And it all began with corn.
The debate between various groups of conservationists, politicians, and local residents was key in the adoption of the 1978 Boundary Waters Act, demonstrating the importance of diplomacy to resolve disputes. Today, thousands visit this wilderness every year, maintaining the local tourist economy while conserving the natural environment.
In just 15 days, the Jamestown reached Ireland. The Ship of Mercy was greeted by thousands of cheering Irish citizens in American tunes such as Yankee Doodle and Lucy Long. Maurice Power, Cove attorney, described the event saying, "A thousand-tongue, half paralyzed with hunger, uttered the feeble but still distinct exclamation, 'God bless America.'"
They violated our rights, and we couldn't move where we want to, and we gonna march till hell freezes over.
The result of racism can be found in the housing policies across the U.S., which led to the 200-day marches in Milwaukee. This debate and grassroots diplomacy by Milwaukee's youth in the 1960s impacted the city, state, and country.
For 8 months following the federal macaw whaling authorization in 1998,
Macaw whalers practiced and trained for the hunt by cedar canoe, encountering persistent protesters on the reservation land as well as many local news reporters. The first attempted hunt since roughly 1928 was conducted on May 10, 1999, just south of Cape Flattery. A swarm of protesters, including those from Sea Shepherd Conservation Society, disrupted the canoe whale team on the water, blocking any hopes of a successful hunt for the tribe.
Yellowstone National Park is a land of mystery and legend. When people think of Yellowstone, they most often think of its famous geysers and hot springs, its magical mud pots, painted waters, and, of course, its range of wildlife. Of all the animals that call Yellowstone their home, one species' existence stands out as more controversial than any other: the wolf.
So cute. Little Ken Burns is growing up. Now it's my privilege to introduce Jonathan Lavine, who will moderate our panel discussion. Thank you, Jonathan.
So, two things before I begin, not the least of which is I am cognizant of this is near the end of the program, so I promise not to go longer than 30, 40 minutes, because they'll want to hear a little bit from you. Somebody once asked me, I was trying to think about the magic, the intensity, something unusual about Ken that you don't know. I mean, it's his heart and his spirit comes out in his movies. And a while ago, Ken gave me credit for something. He and I were talking, and I had a Fitbit on. And it was a decade ago, maybe. And he's like, "What's that?" And I explained to him the whole theory behind 10,000 steps. And he said, "Well, that's interesting." And a little bit later, he got into it, and he comes to me, and he says, "I listened to you on the Fitbit. I gave up on it 6 weeks after I bought the thing." And Ken shows me his thing, and he's walking 26,000, 32,000, and it is what it is about Ken, right? He digs in, no half measures. If he's going to do it, he's going to do it right. And I thought that was absolutely something that is very indicative of your personality. There's no half measures. And secondly, Jeannie and I are in awe to be here tonight in this place. Two kids who went to public high schools in the United States, to be sitting in this place talking about history is humbling beyond our wildest imagination. And I said to Courtney and Amy, "Don't worry, I can ask questions for hours." And they said, "We figured that was the case. So here's 9 we've put on index cards for you to ask." So in any event, let us begin with Dr. Hayden. So Ken has spoken over the years on how your collections here at the Library of Congress have played such an important role in his ability to tell America's stories. So many people think about libraries as collections of books, and primarily collections of books, which also they have. I've seen them. But there's so much more. So tell us, what is here and why you are so keen and were so keen on establishing this prize?
We think of the Library of Congress as a treasure trove of history and culture. And yes, there are books, but there also are the papers of 23 presidents and 36 Supreme Court justices, and the oral histories of veterans, and film, and photographs, and newspapers, and musical instruments, and all types of things that provide the raw material for Ken Burns and for the filmmakers that are here right now, diaries, all of the material that you need, and it's just waiting. And librarians and archivists have been collecting since, and this was when the Library of Congress started, 1802. So it's right here, ready for what we call archival artists. That's what documentary filmmakers are. They take all of these things and put it together in a visual way that touches people in a way that a textbook might not.
Great. And Ken, I know you've spoken about this before, but why don't you share with the group your first visit to the National Archives and what it meant for your film and your filmmaking career and what it means today?
Well, the first time I came here was into this room, and I just remember being so stunned. It's hard to have anything in our built environment compared to the great natural wonders of, say, the young students' film on Yellowstone. But being here is like being on the rim of the Grand Canyon. Being here is sort of at the door to a kind of treasure trove of materials. You know, it's hugely important to understand just how deep and how just complete this collection is. There's no other place like it. And I ended up in my first sustained time here, not working here in the reading room, which I spent some time researching, but across the street, across Independence in another branch, filming what's called the paper print collection, which is Matthew Brady went bankrupt after the Civil War, and so Congress bought many of his photographs for a few $1,000s. They had just languished and he had gone bankrupt. And I remember spending 7 weeks from 8:30 in the morning till 5 at night, individually putting up a photograph, wearing archival gloves with a magnet on a sheet that was a metal sheet that was embedded in a 2x4, and doing this every day, 5 days a week, and getting most of the Matthew Brady collection, which was in spectacular condition, covered for our film. We went to 162 other archives, none more important than this one.
Wow.
I have to say, 173 million items, and now 61 million are digitized. So we're working on it.
And I think we filmed them all.
Yes. And it's always excitement when he comes because he spends time, and the librarians are just, oh my God, all the things we've been collecting and preserving, he's going to turn them into magic.
Absolutely. So, Ross, so Philly on Fire brings us back to 1985, and obviously a harrowing chapter in Philadelphia and United States urban history. Why don't you set up the clip for us by sharing just a little bit about where you found the material from the film, how it struck you?
Where I found the archive?
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of spread out all over. I would say the main source of it is Temple University has like a section of their archive dedicated to the story because it's a Philly story. Mm-hmm. And Move at the time in Philly, starting in the 70s, and the local government both loved the media, so there's no shortage of it, from NBC and ABC, it's all over the place. It's, from all the films I've done, it's the richest archive I've ever seen by far.
Got it. And are we going to see a clip, or are they going to show another clip, or no?
I don't know. Are they?
Well, Tauber, one of the bond guys.
There it is.
They're going to suit up. They're going to drop a device from a helicopter to try to dislodge the bunker. I said, wow. So I shake Tommy. I said, Tommy, what? I says, you got to get up. They're going to drop a bomb from a helicopter. Get out here, he says. This is all the disbelief. I said, Tom, I ain't kidding you. Paul Topper just told me, which kind of like validated it. And we all had to get up and suit up. And we were told that Lieutenant Powell was going to drop a device from a helicopter. Once that happens, we were to run down Osage Avenue, back through the driveway, and then down, and then stay there and take a position in case the move people come out.
Something is starting to happen. There is the fire engine has fired up again. Its engine is on for the first time all afternoon. We just saw some police officers behind us have their hands over their ears. We don't know why. We can't hear anything at this point.
One guy said, take a position behind a tree. So I'm standing behind a tree, like, still trying to digest this. Like, really? Really? And the other cop says, you need to get behind a bigger tree. I said, what? The f*** is going on? So anyway, the helicopter makes its sweeps. Then you start realizing, yep.
We got our signal straight. We got the straight with the guys on the ground. We made our approach. They evacuated. We come right down over the bunker. I guess we were 20 to 30 foot over the bunker. And I was out on the skid. I lit the thing. I had about a 2-minute fuse. I lit it and I dropped it, and it went right where I wanted.
Flying around top, he made an approach. The guy dropped the satchel.
You saw this?
Yeah, he dropped the satchel, keyed off.
Huge explosion here. We don't know what it means.
Yeah.
So, from an archival perspective, was there something so striking in that, cornucopia of footage you said you were able to find that really changed the direction or the scope of the work? And conversely, was there something you found that was really interesting but you took out because you just didn't think it worked in the film?
Well, that entire day, I mean, the story goes on for 11 years, but when I first wanted to do this, I had no idea about the archive or anything. I just knew that if there wasn't archive of every single beat of the story, nobody would believe it. And, when we started to discover it, we realized, that day specifically, which is kind of where the movie builds to, probably like 11 to 15 different camera feeds in various directions, one being specifically on the roof of that house for the entire day. So, there's like a 7-hour feed of just watching this bunker that they built on top of the roof that they blew up. So, and then after, the cameras are rolling while the entire 3 blocks burn to the ground. Yeah. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Jeff, moving on to Bella, or I don't know if I should say Bella, or Bella exclamation point. Big, colorful personalities are obviously much part of the American story. Your film explores the extraordinary life of one of our country's legendary political leaders, Bella Abzug. I'm sure you had just a ton of material to choose from. As you introduced the clip we're about to show, how did you decide what to include in the film? What was the thematic arc? And what, in your opinion, was the greatest find you had?
Well, first of all, thank you. This is an extraordinary evening, and we're very appreciative of all that has happened tonight. Surprisingly, there's not as much archival material related to Bella Abzug as you would think. It was a treasure hunt to dig up material, her speeches, her campaigning, her elections, her debates. C-SPAN didn't exist back when Bella was in Congress, so there was no footage of her on the floor. But I did start here at the Library of Congress, and first in the motion picture room to see what video existed, and then with the photographs. And I had some good success here, and I was very grateful to have this resource. And it's like Ken, I sort of came prepared for the day and put my stuff in a locker and got my pencil out and my gloves, and every film is sort of like an MFA. But yeah, there was some great material here and at the National Archives a few blocks away, all of Bella's letters and the things that people wrote to her asking for, and these letters were sort of a really interesting look inside what people really wanted from her and really saw as like this voice that spoke for them in Congress and in Washington and in a place that they didn't necessarily see they had power. And through Bella, they found that power and a voice to advocate for them. The biggest sort of surprise came at NBC at 30 Rockefeller Plaza in New York. Jamila and I went there to see some film that had never been digitized before. And there's a ton of material that NBC, ABC, and a lot of other places are sitting on in cans, in storage, in warehouses in New Jersey, and they're just not digitizing it unless you A, request it, and B, pay for it. And it's not a cheap endeavor just to see what might be on the film. And it could be nothing, or it could be something great. But NBC, we found this fantastic piece, almost like a 10-minute profile on her that included like speeches and campaigning and really like a 60 minutes type profile on her that gave us some great insight into who she was. And we felt really strongly that to really show Bella and to tell Bella's story, you had to show her. There's no recreations in this film. There's no, dramatizations. It's all archival of her with her fist in the air or giving a great one-liner or campaigning for the things that she really felt strongly about. And I think you'll see that in the clip.
So let's take a look.
He says he hates everybody. I mean, President Carter, Mayor Beam, Walter Cronkite, Bella Abzug, Mr. Abzug.
I was bold because of Bella. Bella and those other Congress women, they spoke up, they spoke out, they organized, they challenged, and I felt capable to do that and a responsibility to do it.
It's because of the killing of the spirit and the meaning and the belief of American democracy that I do impeach the President of the United States.
And she talked about the issues that mattered to me: women's rights, gay rights, civil rights, nuclear disarmament, protecting the environment, ending the war in Vietnam.
Good evening, my fellow Americans.
They must let the President know that he is not their president until he does end the war, and that they will not be accomplices to his fraudulent election, in which millions of Americans were duped into believing that the war would be over and our prisoners home by Christmas.
Bella was a battler. She also knew how to play the inside political game. But Bella inspired me because she never lost sight of who she was fighting for.
We shall have a beginning in 1972 of a new majority of the women in this country, of the young people in this country, of the blacks and the Puerto Ricans and the Asians and other minorities in this country. Let's make this political power structure ours. It doesn't belong to those white male elitists. Let's get into it. It belongs to us. That's what the Constitution has dictated. We're going to make it work. Good night.
The president, rejecting her advice and her, fired her.
Did you call the president a little blank? That's been reported.
I would never say little. She was just too real. She was just too early.
She knew that she wasn't there just for Bella and her generation, that she was there to make sure that the doors were open for what came next.
So one follow-up question. We see there the public side of Bella Abzug and beautifully documented in the impact that she's had on future generations. Was there anything about the private Bella, things you found out about her as a person that might have been different than you imagined seeing the public persona?
Well, I think for every public person and someone who spends that much time in the spotlight and working as hard as she did and pushing against a system that wanted to keep her down and keep her silent, personal lives often get sacrificed. And it was important to us making this film that it wasn't just, a hero piece or a flattering piece, but to really examine, how does one be an effective leader and also be someone that people can relate to and connect with. And so we were very blessed to speak to a lot of the people who worked with her. Eric Hirschhorn is here tonight, her legislative assistant, and many other of her staff were very candid that, she was a person who believed really strongly in the things she believed in and was willing to do it 24 hours a day. and expected that of everybody else around her too. And so there's, you know, complicated, you loved Bella, but there was also this feeling of like, okay, Bella, enough. And why are you calling me at 2 a.m. in the morning? And why are you telling me about, you know, the problem in your house when I'm not your landlord? You know, she was a very intense person. And that was a side of her that we wanted to show in the film too, just to give a fuller balance of who she was, while still respecting her and her work, but still making sure that she was human.
Thank you. Ken, like all of your films, tonight's winners offer us an intimate look and lessons of character as they played out in the context of their own time, and they try to bring them forward to our time. Why don't you tell us why archival footage is so effective, you think, in conveying lessons of character? And this is going to be open-ended. Why do you think it's so important now? Anything going on?
You know, it's so interesting that we are certain that we have a kind of arrogance in the present that assumes that because we're still living, we know more than people did in the past. And it's just not true. And so I think what archival images, all the resources that we're able to collect here and all the other archives that are available to us, paint a kind of composite picture, which I think, if done right, reminds us of how human those people are. And so that their struggles all of a sudden mirror our own in every way possible. When Lynn and I made our film on Prohibition, we ended up, Lynn found this citation from Ecclesiastes that said, what has been will be again, what has been done will be done again. There's nothing new under the sun, which seems to suggest that human nature doesn't change. And what we found in all of the works that we've done has how much, by focusing on that particular moment, whether it's Prohibition or whether it's the Civil War, whether it's all the way back into the 18th century, whether it's relatively recent history, almost all of the things that all of the narratives that we're trying to develop resonate in this present moment. And so to join both halves of your question is that I don't think I've ever made a film in which the stump speech, when we've been out trying to wrangle viewers, hasn't been, what if I told you I was working on a film about? And then listed, without naming the film, all the ways, or not all the ways, just a handful of ways in which that film is talking about things that are going on now. So, for example, I would go out on the stand and say, what if I told you that we had just been working for several years on a film about single-issue political campaigns that metastasized with horrible unintended consequences, that it was about the demonization of recent immigrant groups to the United States, that it was about smear campaigns during presidential election cycles, and that it was about a whole group of people who felt that they'd lost control of their country and wanted to take it back. That's the Prohibition film, right? And I could be describing exactly what was going on in 2011 when that film came out. I mean, it was literally the beginning of the Tea Party. It was the beginning of this sort of weaponization of campaigns in a way that had been going on since 1800, but had a new iteration. And so there was almost everything. And then, of course, the film that you and Jeannie so generously helped to fund, and Alan and Shelley Holt, who are here, on the U.S. and the Holocaust that was just on, when we began it in 2015, it was an entirely different world. And we knew that the film would rhyme in lots of ways with the present moment. What we didn't understand was that by the time we finished the film, it was rhyming in incredibly uncomfortable ways in almost every sentence of the film, in ways that speak to our current moment. And we found it a very effective way to talk and address our current moment, not just about racism and xenophobia and anti-Semitism, but just the nature and the necessity for democracies, as messy and as complicated as they are, particularly as we see an authoritarian movement around the world sort of gaining hold and credence, and not accidental uptick in racist and anti-Semitic and nativist kinds of actions. And so you could find in a period in which when we started the film, we knew it was, one of the most important events, the nadir of civilization, as one of our survivors says in this, but it was going to speak to us somehow. What we weren't prepared for is just the way it was rhyming, as Mark Twain would say, in almost every frame.
Wow. So, Dr. Hayden, you mentioned earlier you've devoted so much time and resources to leading the Library of Congress towards digitizing your archives and making them accessible to the future. Why is that so important, and why should we be hopeful about that project?
When you just got a chance to see those student films, that's what makes me hopeful. These are young people who are using the archives and what we put together and collected. We call it like a history toolbox for them. And we have it there. So it's important to digitize because of the access. You mentioned having to go and look at possibly a reel and wonder what's on there. Well, what we are committed to is making sure that the resources are digitized and available, free, as much as possible, and in terms of reproducing, and that's essential, that there is that accessibility. And when you digitize, people can have access anywhere at any time. They don't have to come and physically be here, because that's a prohibitive barrier for so many people to make the trip to Washington, D.C., and to dig into those diaries and to dig into those papers.
And, a few weeks ago, Alan Holt, who's here tonight, and I had the honor, the true honor, a sobering honor, of introducing you and Lynn in the film at the United States Holocaust Memorial Council, which reminds us about the impact that these films can have, and also that these buildings are living and breathing and places where we should be learning, and there's always something more to get out of it. So, Ken, what are your final reflections before we wrap up?
Well, I think you hit the nail right on the head, Jonathan. You look at this place, this is spectacular architecture. It is something that is awe-inspiring in and of itself in its design, but what makes it all the more effective, it is dedicated to the increase of knowledge. That's what it's here for. It's not a shrine, it's not a temple, it is here to have people learn more, and that enriches the whole purpose of this place. And so, we're venturing right now in our first non-American topic. We're doing a film on Leonardo da Vinci. And in fact, my co-directors and co-producers, Sarah Burns and David McMahon, have taken their family, that is to say, my grandchildren, and are in Florence, Italy, for this year as we work on it. And what you understood was this reciprocal and symbiotic relationship between the sponsors, the things like the Library of Congress, the United States Congress that funds it, the Better Angels Society, you and Jeannie, Shelley and Alan, all of that represents an extraordinary partnership that permits us to do these kinds of things and to have an evening like tonight. As I said before, my first film was on the Brooklyn Bridge, and I started it in my early 20s. I looked like I was 12 years old, and for many years I had on my desk 2 big wide binders, 3-ring binders, filled with hundreds and hundreds of rejections from people who would just laugh and say, this child is trying to sell me the Brooklyn Bridge. No, and slam the door. But somehow we made it. It involved moving up to rural New Hampshire where we could live for nothing. But we made it, and it became important that people had supported that work and made it possible. And all of the films required extraordinary difficulty in just getting that first money. Somebody to say, here's $2,500, which was what the first stake was in the Brooklyn Bridge film. And somebody would give $1,000, and somebody would give this. And then at the end, for us, back in the early 80s, it was the $30,000 we needed to do sort of what we hope this $200,000 will do for Jeff, you know, and for Philly on Fire and Bella. That how we finish the film and cross the finish line and make it possible to be seen in a big venue is hugely important. So everything comes full circle. And I think as we spoke about this evening, the idea of being together, first of all, in person is a real wonderful thing, but also to be able to do this and understand that their stories are equally as complicated about how they got the money, where the money came from, how long it took to get it, how you still needed to get that, choices that were made because there was not enough. Lynn and I had that in Jazz, you know, where we just were faced with some footage that was perfect, but the archive in Germany was going to charge us just $42,500 for less than a minute of film and wouldn't be talked out of. And we said, you're going to lose it. Why don't you do, you know, no. So we changed it. So the ability to have the Medicis, many of whom for us are in this room and are for both of you, for your extraordinary films, they are also in your room, are also in this room. They've made it possible. And so it's that relationship that has been central, I think, to our ability to continue to tell stories. So in the end, I go back to you and to Jeannie and to all the members of the Better Angel Society and just say from the bottom of my heart, a profound thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you for the kind words. Congratulations again. We look forward to sitting here in 20 years and celebrating a lifetime of work that inspires people the way Ken has inspired us.